Morning. Yeah, so it's Wednesday, and I've just kind of got this kind of urge to go for a longer walk today, kind of got that kind of icky feeling of like, not quite sure, and I guess I feel like I need to blow away the cobwebs a bit with a longer walk, and get a bit of nature and just get out in the countryside a wee bit, and I don't know, I was just reflecting on the cycle. Really good, and what I noticed was what I have noticed is it seems to have strengthened up my knee more, I don't know, it's hard to put a finger on, but it feels tighter and there's less clicking going on and movement going on. So I think it might be quite a good rehab of the knee activity to do the cycling, to be honest. It kind of must be, my theory is that it's strengthening other muscles, and can't grumble at less knee pain, so happy days on that front. And what I noticed is that my appetite tends to increase a little bit for the next couple of days after doing something ridiculous, not ridiculous, but something that's like an endurance exercise, like that kind of 4 hour cycling style, and I don't know, I mean, I've kind of gone up to 117 again, but on the weight, but I'm not quite sure whether or not that's just because I've been doing the weights, or it's all a bit of a mystery sometimes, isn't it? Where I feel strong, so I don't know. I've not been eating sugar or anything like that, so it's a bit of a weird one, where I'm on workout number, I just did workout number 6 yesterday because Sunday I forgot to do it, but I guess I had a busy enough day as it was on Sunday, so I then did it on Monday, I think, and then I guess something like that, and then anyway, so I'm on 6, I think, so I might just do one today, just 15 minutes, get a bit of a pump on. I did some yesterday, I think, as well, but I think I'll just do some today. I feel like I need a bit extra exercise today, a wee bit, for some reason, just to rebalance stuff. And I guess I was thinking about this maintaining equilibrium, so this idea that you can be managing your own mood, anxiety levels, routines, but sometimes these can be disrupted by external forces a little bit, and also there's these aspects of say for example going to going to a football match or going to a football tournament or something, it can be that sometimes the culture of football, from my experience, is that it's it can be quite aggressive, and so you might have some of the coaches at these tournaments or that, or mums and dads or that, or even the players being quite aggressive and shouting stuff and swearing, and sometimes there's fights break out between the parents, and sometimes the kids fight. And there was this at the weekend there was one of the, not our parents in our team, but a different parent got red carded and taken away by security because they were saying stuff that wasn't on and stuff, and so I guess things that I might do is notice the kind of automatic reactions that might come about from these things, or we might get a bit more hyper ourselves, or ready to fight, you know, or in this kind of vigilant state, you know. And so we can try and break it up by going for a walk, or creating a bit of distance and looking at it, the situation objectively a little bit if we can. But it can be very difficult, I guess, but it takes practice, you know, and it is practicing these things and noticing the difference, you know, because we can get carried away in the circumstance of the situation, and it is really trying to be more in control of our emotional state to some extent, you know, and not just getting carried away in the hypervigilance and the mood and the atmosphere that's going on, you know. And that can be the same with a lot of things, you know. And it's kind of like, what do we know works to help us to feel more, you know, ourselves as such, you know. And one of the things that helps me to feel more myself is to go for a walk, you know, in the morning. So I do try and maintain that. I didn't go for a massive walk the other day, just more like a 20-minute. And I noticed the difference, you know. And what I did notice as well is that after that long cycle and walking around at the football tournament and stuff like that, and all that I cracked on with that day, I really slept like a baby, you know. And yeah, I woke up to watch 45 minutes or half an hour of the football, but then I slept like really well again, you know. And it's interesting to me in the sense that, what's that indicating to me, you know? If I tend to sleep, like last night I slept 6 hours, which was good, you know, it was a good decent amount of sleep. But it's a little bit like, we get this concept, you know, about our sleep or whatever else, and it's a little bit like, am I actually physically tired enough and to sleep longer, you know? And it's really noticing that side of things, isn't it? Because it's kind of like, well, probably not in some ways yesterday. I've had the 6 hours, which is fine and good. Woke up really early, just before 4 or something, because I went to bed like 9 or something, 9:30. And it's a little bit like, I think society's perception of getting enough sleep and going on and worrying about enough sleep and all this is, it's a little bit like, well, are we sufficiently tired enough to get 7-8 hours sleep, you know? And I suspect that more often than not, most of us are not actually physically tired enough. And it's like yesterday, I did some walking and stuff, I went for a sauna and all that, but if we think about it really, most of the day, I was sat at a computer, you know, most of the day. And yeah, mobilised and all that, but you know, I think as human beings we're designed to be walking around, gathering for stuff, hunting animals, finding fruits, and being really active all day, you know, pretty much all day. So when for work or other things we're sitting around, you know, on computers and all this, you know, I don't think we're sufficiently tired enough physically to actually sleep deeply sometimes, or to need that sleep sometimes, you know, but obviously cognitively we'll be tired, you know. So there is this aspect where it's like, definitely think our perception sometimes of how much exercise we need is way off, you know, because I noticed that on Sunday, you know, when I slept so well, you know. Anyway, so it's this idea of like, and I was looking at like this swimmer, I forget his name, it's terrible, I'm terrible with names, but he's some kind of athlete, I forget now, but anyway, so his workout routine, and yes, his full-time job is to be an athlete, but I like to do this, look at these things for like objectively looking at what I'm actually doing and how, you know, I can up my game quite significantly, probably, even if I'm doing this now, an hour and a half walk or something. It's like this guy was doing 4 workouts a day, 7 days a week for years and years and years, you know, and he was eating 12,000 calories a day. And I was like, you know, I could do this. At least a 12,000 calories a day part. But I was thinking, you know, yes, they've got physios and masseurs and all this, yeah, and it's a full-time job, but it's a little bit like, well, if another human being can do 4 workouts a day, eating 12,000 calories, and look, you know, like a, you know, tuned machine, like swimmer, then it's just like, well, is my perception of how much exercise I'm doing accurate or not? And why am I stuck in my mind to think that what I'm doing is sufficient, and then thinking, am I getting enough sleep and all this, you know? It's you know, and he was sleeping 7-8 hours a night, you know, and it's like, well, no wonder he's sleeping 7-8 hours a night if he's doing 4 workouts a day, you know, sleeping like a baby. And so it's thinking about that, isn't it, sometimes, and our perception of our capability, you know, as human beings, and where it's come from, where it's formed from, what narratives we've heard in the past about these things and all that, you know. But anyway, yeah, so I was thinking about that. I was also thinking about yeah, I guess this aspect where I don't know, it's a hard one really, but I guess I was thinking about, you know, human behaviour and, you know, the world not being always such a nice place, you know, as in, you know, we've got to deal with difficult things, difficult situations and people, and I don't know, it's it's a little bit sad, that's all, you know. You see it in society, other situations throughout our lives and stuff, you know, and it's and sometimes in the news and stuff, and it's thinking about that, and then thinking, well, how do we kind of similar to the football, it's that, how do we maintain our equilibrium? And there was a thing I used to do in the past, I've not done it for a while, but it was really helpful when I was feeling quite anxious a lot, you know, and back in the day, and I guess, you know, it's things you tap into when you need them, I guess, but I guess it's been less of an issue, or not really an issue. So back in the day I used to do this little visualization exercise, and what it was is you kind of visualize being sat somewhere, like in a kind of yoga pose a little bit, yeah, kind of similar to the sitting in a field, limitless field visualization, quite similar to that, but you can visualize it being that you're just walking around as well, but you can visualize it as being that cool butterfly. Anyway, so what you can do is you basically visualize this idea of you being in the center of like you being in the center of like an eggshell. So you know, like there's a yolk in the egg, yeah? So what you do is you just think of yourself as sat in the middle of this eggshell, or walking with a kind of eggshell around you, you know, like an aura. And it's kind of like it moves with you, you know? So like I'm walking now, and it's kind of like thinking about it being like a egg kind of shaped aura around me. And then it's kind of like within that aura, you can kind of visualize it being, say, like this golden color of this barley or whatever it is, wheat, I'm not sure which it is. And so you can just visualize it as being like a light yellow glow color, you know, within yourself, but also within this visualized kind of big egg shape around you, you know. And like kind of like as you walk, this kind of circular thing around your body. And I guess it's that kind of taking nourishment from this like yellow light within it, yeah? But then what you can do is you can see it as that this see that eggshell that would be the external part of the aura. You can kind of change the material of that in your mind to being kind of like titanium or some really strong material or reflective material, you know? And kind of visualize it as being that other things kind of are deflected by that kind of material, you know? And within, you kind of got this kind of positive glow within yourself, you know? And other things are going on out there or coming in at you, you know? But you've got this kind of like, in a sense, like a mini sun. You know, it's like the energy of the sun in some ways, you know? Like that, you know? This glow. Like that, within this shell, you know? That's kind of giving you energy, but also maintaining your equilibrium, you know? So anyway, so that was always helpful for me, you know, and yeah, other things like that have been helpful for me, you know? So yeah, there's this idea of like, also it's quite easy with external influences and forces going on to start to have a negative dialogue or start to see things in a negative light, you know? And what is kind of clear is that the more we see negative things, the more negative things we see, or the more we see things in a negative light, you know? And there's this aspect of like, that affects our mood, you know, and it also kind of changes our kind of neural pathways in our brain to kind of look for more negativity, you know? And that kind of all has this cascade effect on our mood. So there's this aspect of like being aware that that's happening and thinking, right, hang on a minute, I'm going to catch this, you know, as in say to myself, right, hang on a minute, mate, you know, let's notice some of the cool things again, yeah, because that's maybe what you've been training yourself for a long time, you know. And actually you've been building up those neural pathways to make it easier to notice positive things by just practicing noticing positive things. And so there is this aspect of like, if we look for them, we kind of start to train ourselves to notice the positives, you know. So it's kind of like, instead of noticing something negative, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something negative now. I don't know. I can't really think of something. It might be, yeah, so these trainers are getting a bit worn out, yeah? Not massively, but they're definitely quite worn now, yeah? And so I could focus on that side of things and be like, okay, these trainers are getting worn out, yeah? And I could be thinking, alright, oh well, and going on a dialogue about that, having to find some money to buy them and all this kind of stuff, yeah, or do I really want to buy some new ones, and is that going to be no good if I keep wearing these, you know? So you could go down this dialogue of that, you know? So instead, it's kind of like, oh, that's cool that I've got, you know, these trainers. And how cool is it that basically, I was reading an article this morning about new Nike shoes that have been kind of, they're entering the market seemingly. And it was cracking me up, you know. Dear. I mean, I could be wrong here, but I think I'm probably right. And basically, from what I can see, is they're saying that these new shoes by Nike, you know, they're all revolutionary, and they've shown that they stop your mind from wandering and keep you in the present moment and focused, you know, and all this, yeah. And you know what they are? They're a pair of trainers with these little round nodules on the bottom, yeah. And what that's doing is it's creating kind of like variation, in the same way that barefoot shoes do, you know. And so you could get yourself a pair of £10 Temu special barefoot shoes, and you get all of that from all of these little stones on all this variation in the ground, you know. And yes, these ones are quite padded, these barefoot shoes I've got, but I still feel all of that through my shoe, you know. And it's like, oh my god, what a nice bit of marketing they're doing, you know. Basically, it's just, you can get exactly the same thing wearing a pair of barefoot shoes, but they're saying all this special stuff and science about it. And it's true enough, you know, because it will create different sensations on the bottom of the foot, but you get that from walking off road, and you get it from wearing barefoot shoes, you know. But it's just, they've framed it a different way and created trainers with little nodules on the bottom, you know. So I could think, well, how cool is it that I've got barefoot shoes, you know? And I've been doing barefoot shoes for ages. And then I might think, oh well, you know what's extra cool as well is that my foot shape has changed completely over like 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is I've been wearing barefoot shoes. And I don't have those corns on my toes anymore, and I can spread my toes again, and my feet have become wider. Yeah, and you know, what's not to love about that, you know? And also I don't get that foot arch pain anymore that I used to get all the time. It's gone. Yeah, so yeah, it's thinking about these things sometimes and thinking, are we training ourselves to notice the negatives, or are we training ourselves to notice the positives? And it can easily be, and often this is the case with other things, mental health difficulties, all sorts. I'm just thinking of OCD as well, because that can creep back in really quickly, you know, if you don't watch, and you start doing things again, you know, or whatever else. So it's a little bit like, it can quite easily unravel if we're not noticing what we're doing. So a key feature of looking after yourself is noticing what you're doing mentally and physically, and having this awareness in the moment, in the last half an hour, and moving forward, stepping forward. What's the dialogue, you know? Is it objective, Or is it that we're going down rabbit holes of, you know, making assumptions and, you know, is my perception of how much working out I'm doing accurate or not compared to, you know, human beings' capabilities? You know, it's kind of like, well, you know, it's hard to say, but maybe like, you know, say if I was a horse, you know, then it's a little bit like, well, you know, if I just walk around the field and eat grass, then my fitness is not going to be going up, and probably I'm not getting enough exercise, because what we do know about horses is that they can run and gallop for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, yeah? But it might be that we spend a lot of time as a horse in a field with other horses that all live in little half-acre fields and get fed hay, you know? And so our perception is that that's fine, you know? But actually our capability is like running for 10 miles, you know, on a daily basis, you know, or more. So, yeah, it is thinking about our perception of ourselves and our capabilities, and you know, yeah, and it is something I'm trying to break through, because I've been aware of it for a while, where I know that I've got more capability physically with things than what I'm doing, you know. And I'm trying to think what will help with that, you know. Sometimes getting over the bridge, over the fence of that thought, you know. It is about building up steadily, but it is also thinking about society's perception of things, how that might be influencing us, other things, you know. It's like there's kids in parts of the world that walk for like 10 miles a day just to get water and come back, you know, for the family, carrying a bottle of water, you know, and that, you know. And we kind of lose perspective when we're living in the current times, in the circumstances we're living in, you know. And, you know, I remember watching, I think it was, I can't remember what it was, but it was basically these elderly women were carrying stuff across the border. They didn't have any money, didn't have any pension, didn't have any family, and they were basically moving stuff across the border, and they were walking miles and miles and miles every day, just carrying stuff, you know, to try and sell in the next area. And we struggle sometimes to see that perspective, you know, of our capabilities, and it can help to look outside ourselves at these things, and helps us to reconfigure what we're thinking about stuff, you know. But anyway, so noticing the positives, training ourselves to see the positives by consciously picking up the positives or reframing things to try and see a positive. It's kind of like, you know, I've now done nearly an hour of walking. I've been banging on for ages on this, but it's been helpful for me in the sense that I've really noticed quite a dramatic difference between when I was just before leaving the house and that kind of feeling, yeah, and what I feel like now after like 50 minutes, you know, or an hour, you know. I'm not just saying that, I honestly feel a massive difference, you know. I feel a massive difference. And there's this aspect where it's to do with what I notice that contributing to that is like this. I feel like a bit of a warm glow and surge from the exercise. I can feel all my muscles working. Feel the sunshine, you know. thought through some thoughts and did a bit of visualization when I was explaining to you guys about the kind of eggshell idea of visualizing you glowing within yourself, you know, and kind of other things being deflected off that, you know, or can let things in if needed, but it's kind of making a conscious choice to let that thing in, you know. Yeah, I feel better. So it's this aspect where, you know, might have been that the perception was, oh, I'll probably be tired or bored going for a walk, or, you know, will that lead me to being X or Y, or all these other stuff, you know, these dialogues. And it's kind of like, well, what's the reality? Well, the reality that it's absolutely amazing. You know, can't beat it, you know. And it's the kind of thing that I'll try and install as the kind of nice, mild weather, beautiful walking through the fields for a little resource that'll get me through the winter maybe. But you have a great day, and think about some of these concepts maybe and give them a wee go, reframing things, noticing the positives more, noticing objectively what we're thinking, like what our perception of our capabilities are, exercise wise and other things like that, and maintaining this equilibrium within ourselves and kind of using that you know, positively to achieve things that we want to achieve, you know. Have a great day anyway. So I'm just back from the walk this morning, and basically it was like a 10k in total, 10 kilometres I've walked in total this morning. Then I had a sauna and what do you call it, snooze on a hot towel bed after that for about 15-20 minutes. So I was there for about an hour doing my whole sauna, shower routines and head massage, and then I had a little snooze for 15-20 minutes, and then I finished with the cold shower because the cold plunge wasn't working. And you know, I feel like, you know, perfect now, and it's the end result, isn't it? I'm going for a long walk, having a sauna, shower, having a little snooze and all that, getting up early, but then it's about 8:30 now and I feel like top dollar, you know, and having a wee wander, having a look at things. The tomatoes are coming out. I'll show you. Tomatoes are coming out now, look, loads of tomatoes. So it's going to be epic. There's some big courgettes there, and yeah, it's this thing of like just seeing what the outcome is, really, isn't it? More regularly, because in the morning, this morning, I was like, you know, and I'm like, I was like, can I do this, you know? But then, this is how you feel if you do it, you know? So maybe have a think about getting out and about a bit more. Have a good one.